Hi there, and welcome to my garden. We are just going to do a simple video today where we're going to walk around and I'm just going to show you a few of my favorite things. And today is July 4th, and I'm in Portland, Oregon, which is USDA Zone 8B, sometimes fringing on 9A. And it's been a beautiful summer so far. We've had a few hot days, but not very many, so the gardens are just loving it. So let's just it's going to be looking at scenes throughout my garden, just a couple of vignettes and plants that are, I think, looking exceptionally good today, or in some cases, maybe something that I've been thinking about changing or revising, and just kind of sharing with you some of my thoughts about that. So thanks for visiting, and let's get started. This is the far back corner of my garden, the northeast corner. And it's a sunny spot that gets a lot of hot afternoon sun, just kind of going right into that corner. And there's just a couple of things that I want to talk about here, but I'm going to start with uh, sometimes you're walking around in your garden and something sneaks in and comes to the fore unexpectedly. Like I was walking around last night and I knew I had that clematis in there, but I didn't know that it had bounded up and taken such a sprint and woven itself into there. So this is a relatively new clematis for me. I planted it, I think, last year. It's quite vigorous, and that's Clematis Minuet, and it is mingling there with a Hydrangea paniculata quickfire. And I just think that's super fun. It's also kind of climbing up into that conifer. And so some of these vines, it's uh, it's nice to have a big vine that can actually make it up into some of those spots because sometimes in my garden the big vines are just too big. But that one is big and vigorous and it has a place to go. So, and that hydrangea back there, that is Hydrangea Miss Seorii, if I'm saying that correctly, and she's looking pretty good. So again, this is the back northeast corner, pretty sunny at the top with some spots of shade down below. There it is in context. I'm going to back out a little bit more so you can kind of really see where it is in the garden. And I suppose this is a good reminder for those that are just tuning in that there are a number of videos on the channel that give full tours of the garden. So you might want to check those out, see the garden through the seasons. On the other side of that same area, I want to focus for a moment on this Stewartia monodelpha. And I did some work on it yesterday or the day before, thinning it out a little bit so that I could see its cinnamon colored bark and also open it up so I could enjoy some of the plants behind it. So sometimes, when you first put a tree in, you just let it go for a little while. And so I've been letting this one get kind of settled in and not really doing too much pruning on it to because I didn't want to disturb it too much. But now that it's here, now that it's happy, now that it's really kind of coming into its own, I'm beginning to kind of open it up so that I can enjoy the attributes of the tree that I selected it for. And the bark is one of them. The flowers, which we're kind of getting to the end of, are certainly nice. But fall color is going to be fantastic. And it's just a nice little tree. But now with the little bit of work that I did on it, I love that I can kind of see through it and see some of the other really cool plants that I have. This lily is pretty darn happy and it's having its moment. And I just get a lot of enjoyment from that. And it's just right nestled in there. Looks fantastic with the golden foliage of the Haconolacoa. That's all gold. And then the blue foliage of this dwarf conifer. And this is the view right outside my back door. So that's making me happy. Some of the hardy fuchsias that I planted a couple of years ago are starting to get well established, and they're just such a wonderful late season bloomer. So they've been blooming for a little bit, but they're just going to keep on going right on into the fall. So this is a hardy fuchsia called Flash, and it's robust and pretty and hardy. Sometimes having a simple element, but simple but dramatic element, just situated in just the right spot, can really bring focus to an area of the garden. And so that's what this blue pot is doing for me. It is ultra easy care, and yet like I just occasionally water it. That's a Cordyline in there that is kind of tender, so I do have to protect it in the winter. I put it into my, kind of my utility room in the worst part of the winter. But it's just a wonderful pivot point, focal point in the garden. It's part of the color echo of the blue accessories that kind of go through, that I weave through the garden. You can kind of see the throw pillows back there. But a strategically located container can be a highly effective way of adding order to your garden and kind of creating a sense of rhythm. So these three containers work together to do that. But the real star, I think, is that tall cylindrical one in the middle of the pathway. Although this one's not too shabby either. Phormiums are not reliably hardy for, the long term in gardens in the Portland area. Not to say that I haven't had them in the ground at different times. I certainly have. But I have taken to growing them in large containers that I can then put where I want, kind of like the Cordyline that we just looked at in the container over there. It's also a container within that container, like a nursery pot. And so I'm able to keep these specimens looking fresh and beautiful by placing them in these, uh, using them as containers in the garden to create a focal point. And then because they're in the nursery pots, I'm able to put them in an area in the winter where I can protect them. Like I have a utility room where during the worst of the winter, I can pull them out and I can move them into a covered area and then take them back out. They can spend most of the year outside and do the work that they're doing, which is fantastic foliage, part of the color story that I'm trying to create. These containers along the south side of my house are in one of my sunniest spots. And so it's a place where I can play with, summer color, hot colors. And everything along this side is in containers. So it's a place where I kind of experiment, have fun. Um, and I've got some beautiful blooms happening now. I've got some lilies. I've got this fantastic oregano. I think you're going to be able to see that I'm not the only one that likes it. The bees are kind of on it, visiting. This is Xera Cascade. It's an oregano. Looks fantastic in a container because it kind of wants to cascade over the side. It's an alstroemeria, which is a great thing. Great plant to have in your garden because it's a fantastic cut flower. I've got a smoke bush that I'm growing on. That's a golden spirit. It was a seedling actually that I pulled out of my front garden and put in a container, um, figuring somebody's going to want it, or I'll just grow it in a container for a while. Lots of plants in here that I can use as cut flowers. This Hypericum is fantastic for that purpose. You know, it's got the yellow flowers, which, oh, here we go. There's some, so you got the flowers and the berries on a vigorous shrub, and it's not really, it's not going to be in this container for long because it just, you know, gets too big for the space. So I'll probably change that out next year. Sometimes I will pick up a plant that I know I really don't have room for on the long term, but I just can't resist it. And so that is what this is. It's a Cercis flamethrower. And I picked it up as a youngster because that was the only way I could really afford to do it. It's still, because it's a new and popular introduction, the prices are still pretty high. But I picked it up last year or the year before, and I've just got it growing on in a container so that if I do ever put it in the garden, it's going to have a little bit more stature and it won't be just a little whip. And if I just grow it in a container for a while and enjoy it that way, then that's pretty cool too. I love its foliage. I love all the colors that it expresses. You know, we've got, you know, yellow foliage to rosy foliage to red foliage all on one plant. You can see it just kind of mingles in there with the other ones, and I just love it. So it's a tree, but it's not, but it's something I can enjoy short term in a small space if I grow it in a container. Itea alicifolia is doing its thing, and it just is uh, so dramatic. These long, 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 here you can see chains of flowers on an evergreen shrub. It's trained against my fence, so it's quite amenable to, you know, pruning and it's pliable enough that I can actually espalier it along my fence. So I've been able to grow it here for many years, and after its bloom, I will do some pruning on it just to kind of keep it within bounds. But I wouldn't be without it. I just think those flowers are so dramatic and so fun, and just a curtain of just the way they kind of cascade down and create that curtain of beautiful, beautiful blooms. And of course, there's a clematis going through there as well. Speaking of things that I'm growing on in a container, either, you know, that's where it's going to live its life with me, or I'm growing it on so that when it does go in the garden, it's a little bit more substantial. So that's what I have going on here. This is a Schefflera Rodana, rhododendrifolia. I may be mispronouncing that as per usual, but it's really starting to get some stature so that if I do put it in the garden and find a spot for it, it's going to be pretty awesome right from the get-go. In the meantime, I like its texture in there. I like its boldness, and it's a pretty cool plant. I show this most every season, but I can't walk by without showing it to you. This is Hydrangea quercifolia, little honey, and I love it. And I love it in combination with this Mahonia chrysolepis and how it speaks to my yellow door in the background. And then the foreground here is just a simple variegated boxwood. So those shrubs goes from the variegated boxwood to the golden, so the golden oak leaf hydrangea, to the Mahonia chrysolepis, to the Cryptomeria japonica, and a little camellia in there. That's the evergreen spine that is going through this bed. That just really looks good through the seasons, and then it is complemented by a lot of little small treasures down below. In the sunny front yard, it's hard to pick out favorites, and it's partly because it's always changing and there's a new favorite most days. But let me give it a whirl. So here we are in the, you know, sunny spot up front on the slope. Uh, and this is what I want to talk to you about today. These are some relatively new additions where I'm just trying to, I mean, this is a very hot spot. It's pretty dry. And so I've been experimenting with some different plants, and I think this is a winner. So this is a Monardadella, and I'll put the name up there. Love it. Love it in combination with this sedum, blue pearl, and then with the addition of that allium, then I just get ecstatic. I love that combination. Makes me so happy. And of course, there's other things going on in there too, but I'm just focusing on that Monardadella, the Allium Christophii, that sedum blue pearl, and it's just such a sweet combination. I planted this echinacea a couple years ago, and then since then, I've added it to multiple places in my garden because it is just so vigorous. It's sturdy. Look at those stems, they're just like sturdy. Its flowers are fun, multicolored. They're actually just beginning. We get some green in there, we get some pink. And some yellows, and it's just a vigorous and sturdy echinacea. And so I've actually got it going in about 5 different places in the garden. So it's one of those plants that I'll use for creating continuity. And I love it. Echinacea green twister. And these are allium, purple sensation seed heads right in here. So those were purple before. They're spent blooms, but they still are contributors. This Eryngium is the cutest little thing, and it's the one with the variegated foliage. And this is just a youngster. I just planted it last year. So it's a little sparse, it's a little floppy, but I am happy with the combination that's coming, that is going to be uh, getting stronger as time passes. So I've got a fantastic phlomis here, that Eryngium, and so while it's sparse right now, I'm really liking the direction that that's going. We looked at this scene in an earlier video, but I want to circle back to it because the Hesperaloe, the red yucca, has started its bloom, and it's kind of hard to, because it's so wispy and so airy, it's kind of hard to show, but it is so much fun. The hummers love it. The flowers are beautiful. See if I can get the camera to focus on them. It's a little tricky because camera doesn't really know where to look, but doesn't have a lot of blooms, but they sure are fun. Couple things to point out here, but let's start with this one. The agave is blooming, and so that's been pretty fun. And the neighbors, you know, it's just like neighbors are constantly stopping by, checking on its progress, and just lots of fun conversations with people. That agave will bloom, and after it blooms, it will die. So I'm going to have a huge opportunity in that back area. Um, so certainly can't show this area without kind of showing you what's happening with that agave. But you can see this is why we grew it for so long. That gorgeous, just structural form and the beautiful color. So we're going to have a hard time, you know, beating that for a little while. We're going to have to figure out what to grow back there that has as much firepower. But in here, what I've been watching is this penstemon is called Enor, and it's very beautiful. I love the color. But what I wanted to mention is that it's been blooming for a really long time, and it's pushing new growth that's going to bloom. I've deadheaded it maybe a couple of times. I'm not out here like every day deadheading it, but I've cut it back a couple of times. And it's just as vigorous. That's just one plant in there that's been giving and giving and giving. And it's so good that I think I'm probably going to find a couple more plants and put them in a couple different spots. I've been working on this garden a lot in the last week, and I've been making some revisions. I reworked this area because there was a Veronica in there that I wasn't very pleased with. And yes, that is another Veronica in there that I replaced it with, but it's going to be a little stronger grower. It's not going to like, I hope that it's not going to reseed as much as the other one did. And then I just took the opportunity to bulk up this bed a little bit. I put that green twister echinacea. Remember I mentioned it earlier. It's something that I'm repeating through the garden because it's just such a strong grower. And then I've been growing this diorama on for a while. That's an Angel's fishing rod. So it's strappy foliage. It should be evergreen to semi-evergreen. And then if I can make it happy there, it's going to have those long pendulous blooms that would cascade down the hillside. So fingers crossed that that's a good addition, but that's why that looks a little sparse in there. It's because I did some reworking. But all of this is looking pretty lush. Everything's establishing pretty well. Shouldn't be too long before we start seeing actual blooms on that Caryopteris. But this scene in here is definitely sweet. So Sedum Blue Pearl, nice little daylily, Salvia caridana, just a little daisy, and just a tapestry of bloom that will keep on going. And I've actually been bulking up uh, this and doing some editing, and some plants that I've been growing on in containers I actually put in the ground. That is a dwarf eupatorium. And so that's going to be something that's going to look great in late summer and fall. It's starting to push its flowers, and it should look really nice in there. So we'll just wrap up by just a stroll along the front garden. Uh, this part of the garden is very much summer, you know, and it just is full of blooms. So much fun. I work outside a lot in the summer, and so it's so fun to, talk to neighbors and hear from them. It's either they say one of two things. One, thank you. I walk by your garden all the time. I love it. And then there's the other group that says, oh man, what a bunch of work. And I go, yep, it's a bunch of work and I love it. But there are some people that are, they just look at the garden and they think, oh gosh, that's way too much work. And I get that. This isn't for everybody, but it's what I like to do. And I love that it brings so much joy to other people. And even the people that say, oh my gosh, it's too much work and I just can't envision doing that. I think they secretly enjoy it too. So that's what I'm hoping, that's what I'm doing. And I hope that you enjoyed this little walkabout where I showed you a few of my favorite things. And I look forward to seeing you next time.